Hey, what is up everybody? It's Animac here for AnimeUproar, and today I will be breaking down the latest developments in the Attack on Titan story. And I don't have to tell you that the story has been blowing up in recent chapters, most of the time quite literally. A ton of very important events took place in a very short period of time in this latest chapter, including the epic return of two major characters. I mean, I knew they would both come back, I've been saying it in video after video, but it was still amazing to see it actually happen. And the plot continues to thicken, so let's get into it. If you enjoyed the Attack on Titan content on this channel and you'd like to see more, please leave a like to let me know. And if you happen to be new to AnimeUproar, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. You can also check us out on Twitch, twitch.tv/AnimeUproar, where we do regular manga discussions, including for Attack on Titan. And we are now making all of our videos available in audio format as a podcast, if that's something you'd be interested in. You can check out AnimeUproar Audio on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, links in the description. Finally, this video will of course contain Attack on Titan manga spoilers. We're talking about the most recent events in the story, so please proceed with caution, you have been warned. Chapter 125 starts off with a very clear message. The rumbling that was initiated by Eren created a lot of collateral damage. The Wall Titans didn't just quietly emerge and begin their mission to protect all the Eldians on the island. On the contrary, the sudden destruction of the walls has claimed the lives of many innocent people on the island who were trapped under the rubble or trampled by the Titans themselves. The soldiers are doing their best to rescue as many civilians as possible, and our girl Hitch is there among the soldiers trying to help the victims of the rumbling. I'll be honest and say that I kind of forgot that Hitch was still around, but good for her for still being alive and fighting the good fight. In the aftermath of the rumbling, two competing opinions have emerged about Eren. Some people are outraged that Eren activated the rumbling and killed so many of his own people as a result of collateral damage. But others consider the loss of those people a necessary sacrifice in order to protect everyone else on the island from total annihilation. The situation is dire and the two factions are fighting amongst themselves, so Hitch is charged with going back to headquarters and bringing the new recruits and weapons into the streets in order to help maintain order and prevent violent riots from breaking out. The focus on collateral damage was relatively brief, but it is such an important aspect of the Attack on Titan story and something that separates Attack on Titan from many other series. When Eren first initiated the rumbling, I didn't even consider that this would cause widespread collateral damage and take out a bunch of innocent people. I was focused on the bigger picture, the war against Marley and the other foreign nations, and the need to protect Paradis from these enemies. The whole idea behind the rumbling was that Eren wanted to protect the people of Paradis against cruel and persistent attacks by foreign invaders. Eren and his comrades had tried everything to make peace and avoid future conflict, but conflict kept knocking on their door whether they liked it or not. With that in mind, it is possible to understand how Eren might have come to the conclusion that the only way to protect his friends and everyone he cares about is to initiate the rumbling. But war always has unintended consequences and collateral damage. War is no joke. War cannot be perfectly planned or controlled, and in any war, the biggest losers are always the innocent civilians who get caught up in the middle through no fault of their own. This is why I truly appreciate the Attack on Titan story and how realistic and nuanced it is. In most other series, the focus is on the main characters and on the big picture, and when epic stuff happens, including massive explosions and transformations and battles, we don't usually spend any time thinking about the effects that such explosions and transformations would have on random innocent civilians who have nothing to do with the main plot. But Attack on Titan does take the time to point out these important details. The story reminds us that every action has consequences, and even if you do something with the noblest of intentions, your actions can still cause destruction and suffering. Eren felt that he had no choice but to initiate the rumbling in order to protect everyone that he cares about on the island. But even though his goal was a noble one from the perspective of the islanders, innocent people still suffered and died because you can't just destroy 3 gigantic walls without having tons and tons of rubble raining down on all the people and property below. Back at the military headquarters, Hitch notices a trail of some sort of liquid substance on the floor. She follows the trail into what looks like a library where she comes face to face with none other than Annie Leonhardt. The recently uncrystallized Annie grabs Hitch from behind and threatens to kill her if she makes a sound. However, Hitch manages to overturn the situation by flipping Annie around and slamming her to the ground. Annie is far weaker than she used to be after spending over 4 years inside the crystal. I'm sure she will recover eventually, but at this point, she is apparently as strong as an old woman. However, even though she is clearly weak, Annie may still be capable of transforming into the female Titan. Hitch is suspicious about whether Annie even has the energy to transform at this point in time, but in the end she doesn't want to take the risk. If Annie chooses to transform, she will destroy the headquarters and kill a lot of innocent recruits in the process, so Hitch agrees to just help Annie escape the city. As Hitch is preparing the horses, Annie reveals that she was indeed conscious, or at least semi-conscious, during the time that she was sealed away inside the crystal. She compares it to having a faint dream, but she does recall hearing the voices of Hitch and Armin in the distance. Annie also heard Eren's telepathic communication to all Eldians. Once they hop on a horse and begin to travel outside of the city, Annie can see for herself that Eren was indeed serious about destroying the world. The rumbling has taken place and endless hordes of wall titans are marching in formation towards the ocean. Hitch tells Annie to look at the collateral damage that the rumbling and the colossal titans have caused, and she asks Annie again how she could have done what she did in her own Titan form back in the past. When the female Titan fought against Eren's Titan inside the capital all those years ago, there was also a ton of collateral damage and many innocent people died. Hitch doesn't understand how Annie could be okay with doing things like this, how she can live with herself after causing so much destruction and misery. But Annie explains that as someone who grew up in Marley, she was taught to see the world in a completely different way from Hitch. As she trained to become a warrior, Annie, just like Reiner and Gabby and all the other warriors, were actively encouraged to kill Eldians on the island. They were taught to see all the islanders not as fellow human beings, but as evil devils who had to be killed for the sake of saving the world. According to this propaganda, the islanders were evil. They threatened the safety of everyone else in the world, and for this reason killing them indiscriminately was completely justified. In fact, killing the evil islanders was their duty. It wasn't even a matter of choice, it was a matter of obligation. This is the part that people who just blindly hate Reiner, Annie, and Gabby don't quite understand. Since we as the readers and viewers experience the story from the point of view of the islanders, we sympathize with them and we see the Marleyans as evil. And I would definitely argue that what the Marleyans are doing is objectively evil, but it's very difficult to know that you yourself are doing something evil if you've been taught for your entire life that the evil thing you are doing is actually good. Think of it as being part of a cult. For outsiders, it's hard to imagine why anyone would allow themselves to be manipulated by a cult. But for the people inside the cult who have been brainwashed, manipulated, lied to, and mentally and physically abused from a very young age, they eventually get to a point where they don't know right from wrong. In such an environment, it is easy to manipulate people into doing evil things because they genuinely don't know any better. They've been brainwashed. And I would definitely compare the Marleyan warrior program to a cult. In some ways, the warriors are victims just as much as they are villains. They are recruited at a very young age while they are still just impressionable children. They are lied to and manipulated constantly. Their entire families are held hostage at the mercy of the Marleyan military. And all of these factors together contribute to their life choices. Some of the things they've done are certainly inexcusable, but it's hard to just label them as villains without considering the specific context in which they did what they did. We then finally get more of Annie's backstory, and we learn additional information about Annie's relationship with her father. It turns out that Annie was abandoned by her mother as a baby after a blood test determined that her mother's lover was secretly an Eldian. This is interesting because it suggests that the mother did not know that the lover was an Eldian before the baby was born, so it is possible that the lover was able to hide his Eldian identity through some falsified blood tests, much like the owl Aaron Kruger did. Although if you're thinking that Aaron Kruger might be Annie's real father, the timeline doesn't add up. Unless Annie lied about her age, she would have been born several years after Aaron Kruger was already eaten by Grisha Jaeger. Inside the internment zone, Annie was adopted by an Eldian man who apparently came from abroad. At first, Annie's adoptive father's only goal was to train Annie to become the best possible warrior. His plan was to benefit from the honorary Marleyan citizenship and the other perks that he would receive if his daughter succeeded in joining the warrior program. Eventually, Annie became as strong as her adoptive father wanted her to be, and she was able to overpower him despite the fact that she was a little girl and he was an adult man. Annie succeeded in joining the warrior program, but before she departed for the mission on Paradise Island, Annie's father knelt before her and apologized for all the suffering he had put her through with his training. He had come to view Annie as more than just an opportunity to lead a better life. He came to view her as his own daughter, and he told her to forget everything. Forget the honorary Marleyan status, the title of warrior, and everything else. The only thing that should matter to her now was surviving and coming home safe. Annie took this advice to heart. She was never ideologically motivated or brainwashed by the Marleyans like, say, Reiner was. She knew that she had a father waiting for her at home, and she just wanted to come back to him one day, even if that meant doing terrible things. She recognizes that she committed horrible sins in the past, but she says that she'd do it again if it means getting back home to her father. This is an important point that Annie makes. Our actions in life are a matter of perspective. It all depends on how we frame our actions and our experiences. Annie lived a hard life. She was abandoned by her parents, she was oppressed constantly, and the only person who ever showed her any affection was her adoptive father. So she wasn't really worried about the rest of the world. She wasn't thinking about the well-being of some random strangers that she never met and that never did anything for her. She decided that the only thing that matters was surviving and coming home to her father, and she would do whatever it takes to accomplish this goal. The safety and well-being of random strangers on the island was not her concern, especially after she was told that they were all evil devils. Having said that, it is clear that Annie does regret her actions and that once she saw that the people on the island weren't evil, she didn't want to harm them. This is most evident by her reaction to the death of Marco. So her perspective shifted over time, but it isn't hard to understand how Annie must have felt at the beginning when she first arrived on the island. Back in the Liberio internment zone, the Eldians there are trying to alert the Marleyan guards about Aaron's ominous telepathic message. But the Marleyans, of course, did not hear Aaron's voice, so they're not buying it, and they think that the Eldians are just lying in order to escape the camp. The soldiers begin attacking the Eldians and forcing them to their knees, but the Eldians don't have much to lose at this point. They know that if they stay where they are right now, they're gonna be killed anyway as soon as Aaron arrives. So Annie's dad thinks back to the promise that Annie made him to come back one day, and he decides to fight against the Marleyan guard, and he grabs at the guard's gun. It appears that an Eldian rebellion in Liberio may be happening, but we don't get to see more of those events because the story shifts back to the island. Some of the new recruits are trying to tell Shadis to escape since the Jaegerists are taking control of the fortress and Shadis is a symbol of the old regime. But Shadis explains that he doesn't intend to run, and he tells the recruits not to oppose the Jaegerists. Most of the population seems to be on their side, and they will definitely seize control of the island soon, so opposing them would be like suicide for the recruits. Meanwhile, Armin and Mikasa are speaking about potentially stopping Connie from feeding Falco to his mother's Titan. Armin is worried that even if Eren succeeds in destroying the world while protecting the Eldians on the island, if they can't gain the trust of Falco, Gabi, Reiner, and Peak, then the history of the Titan Wars will just repeat itself. The warriors will form their own faction on the island, and the Titan Shifter infighting will continue even after Eren destroys the rest of the world. Armin ultimately decides to go after Connie and to tell him to leave his mom as she is. This is undoubtedly very difficult for him to do, but in the end he feels that this is what has to be done for the good of humanity. The history of the world and of mankind is about to change drastically thanks to Eren's actions, and they have to make the best of what they have left. Mikasa isn't sure what to do and she asks Armin what they're going to do about Eren. But Armin tells her that he doesn't know and that she needs to think for herself. Right now they are in a very difficult position. Eren is out there destroying the walls and the world, Hanji and Levi might be dead, Flock and his men are trying to take control of the military, and Annie could also be there somewhere just waiting to turn into the female Titan. The current situation on the island is a state of complete chaos because the government and the chain of military command have broken down and no one is safe, not even Queen Historia. The situation is critical and they simply don't have time to think about Eren right now. After all, Eren is a massive Titan monster and he is controlling millions of wall Titans. There isn't much that they can do about Eren now, even if they wanted to, so they have to focus on what they can do, and that is preserving some semblance of order here on the island. Armin then starts complaining how Erwin should have been saved instead of him, but come on Armin, get over it man, you are out here telling Mikasa that you don't have time to think about Eren, and yet you, in like the next breath, are talking about how Erwin should have been saved instead of you? It is what it is, Armin, and you are an amazing strategist, so let's get to work, my dude. As Armin leaves, Mikasa notices that her scarf is gone. Gabby then says goodbye to Kaya and her family, and she heads out on horseback with Armin in order to intercept Falco and Connie before Connie feeds Falco to his mother. Elsewhere, Jean walks in on Flock, torturing some of the volunteers who came to the island in order to fight against Marley. Flock claims to be a confidant of Eren, and he says that Eren told him his master plan 10 months ago. And apparently the plan was to use Zeke and then betray him in order to gain the power of the founding Titan. This definitely isn't total BS that Flock just came up with on the spot or anything. Flock, being the genius level strategist that he is, tells the volunteers that their homelands are about to be destroyed and that they have nothing left to live for. But hey, if they want to serve the Eldian Empire, then that would be dope. I can't imagine a worse way to try to motivate someone to help you. These guys came to the island to risk their lives in a war against Marley, and Flock is like, oh, okay guys, so you and your countries are screwed, and now I'm going to torture you, but hey, you know, join us and stuff. One of the volunteers that Flock was torturing speaks up against him, but Flock just shoots him and kills him. He then uses the dead man as an example for the other volunteers and tells them that there is no reason for anyone else to die as long as they obey the will of the glorious King Emperor Flock Forster, the proud owner of the most stylish bangs on Paradise. Mikasa shows up and she and Jean are like, Flock, buddy, are you okay, man? What's going on with you? At this point, Flock sounds like some kind of crazy zealot, and he has taken it upon himself to cleanse the island of hatred while Eren cleanses the rest of the world. He seems to think that after he gets rid of everyone he doesn't like on the island while Eren gets rid of everyone off the island, then they will all finally be free to live whichever way they want to live. I mean, okay, I can understand how someone who grew up in that cruel world and served as a soldier for all those years could lose it like this, but I'm willing to bet that Eren doesn't give a damn about Flock, and he probably never even told him his plan. And let's face it, Eren isn't the only one. I bet that no one out there watching or listening to this right now, literally no one, gives a damn about Flock. And if you see that one guy in the comments saying Flock is best boy, I love his best genius hairstyle, and so on, you can be certain that they're just memeing. Nobody loves Flock. Nobody. Moving on, Mikasa asks the legendary King Emperor Flock where Hanji and Levi are, and he tells them that they were both killed by Zeke. Again, definitely 100% not total BS. Meanwhile, Falco is riding with Connie on horseback. Connie is telling Falco that he lost his memory and Connie is just trying to take him to the hospital, although in reality he wants to feed him to his mother. While I can appreciate a son wanting to prepare a hot meal for his mother every once in a while, I think Connie will end up changing his mind. Although he may not even get the chance to change his mind because Falco is already thinking about somehow ditching Connie and heading back south to meet up with Gabby and the others. As all of this is happening, and as you can see a lot is happening in all sorts of different locations at the same time, We also see Peak and Magath watching the Wall Titans march towards the sea as the Marleyan airships rush back to the continent. The airships are trying to get back and warn everyone about the rumbling, and Peak asks if the Marleyan military has any way to stop Eren. Magath says no, there's really nothing that they can do except hold out until the very end. But then, suddenly, the two of them are approached by Hanji. Hanji puts her hands up and tells them that she is unarmed. She also points to a wagon behind her where an injured man is wrapped up in bandages and lying down motionless. Hanji says that the man inside the cart is a completely harmless man who failed to die, and the text on the final page says that a soldier shall not die until he has given meaning to his life. Just as I thought, and just as a lot of you thought, Levi is injured, but he is indeed alive. There is no way that an absolute mad lad like Levi would die in such a random and off-screen way, not after everything he's been through. And how ironic is it that Hanji called him completely harmless? Absolutely hilarious. It's true that this chapter didn't have any epic Titan battles, but it had a ton of moving parts. We saw a bunch of different scenes playing out at different locations at the same time, including Annie and Hitch, the Eldians rebelling at Liberio, Armin and Mikasa, King Emperor Flock, Hanji and Levi. So much is happening. I feel like all the chess pieces are being moved into place before we get to the final showdown, although it is difficult to say what precise form this final showdown will take. Personally, I am very happy that Annie and Levi are back. And call me crazy, but I predict that Flock will not make it to the end of the story. Now, I really hope that the next chapter will give us more Eren, and in particular, I want to know more specifics about his new Titan form. After he transformed, we've been seeing pretty much everything else that's been happening except for Eren himself, so I hope this changes in the next chapter. Let me know what you guys think. Are you hyped for the return of Annie and Levi? And how do you think that the two of them are going to affect the story going forward? Is Levi too injured to play an important role anytime soon? Or is he maybe bluffing and he's not quite as injured as it appears? Also, is Annie too weak right now to transform into the female Titan? Or is she going to actually attempt to fight Eren again in her Titan form? Feel free to hit me up down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more Attack on Titan content right here on the channel, please leave a like to let me know. It really does help. And if you happen to be new to AnimeUproar, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. If you don't go through the trouble of clicking the bell and selecting the option that says all notifications, you're gonna miss a lot of our videos. That's just how YouTube works. You can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar. I want to give a massive thank you to all of our AnimeUproar patrons who support the channel and make what we do possible. With all the problems on YouTube lately, patron support means more than ever, so thank you guys so much. Special thanks to all of our Pro Hero tier patrons, including the one and only Gilgamesh, Nothing But a Fan, Jason Wilson, King Zeldris, $50 Beat, Anatoly Kazatsky, Alpha Dio, Angel Cruz, and Team Sparky 65. And I can't forget the ones who rise above all other clans. A huge thank you to all of our The One tier patrons, including Ingrata, Alolan Matty Mac, Makota-kun, The World, Steelers, The School Bus, and Tyson Quirino. If you enjoy our content and you feel we provide value for you, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Even a single dollar will give you access to our patron-exclusive Discord, and your name will appear in our videos along with these legendary people. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.